Call the meeting order at 7 o'clock.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone is here. Start with January 5th meeting minutes.
I've read those. I recommend that we accept it as written. I move that you accept
There's a
it as
motion.
written.
Is there a second? All right, moved and seconded by Meredith and Jack. Is there any question on this? Amendments to the minutes? All those in favor? That's it, thank you. Items of agenda, any 11th hour, James?
There is no 11th hour.
Okay, any executive session?
Yes.
So I'll make a motion that we accept the agenda, moving item number 9.
Second read.
Discussion on that? All those in favor? 5-0. Okay. Open to the public, and people can call in 930-811-8189. Open to the public at this time. Yes.
I would like to ask.
State your name real quick.
Oh, Janet Williams, Searsport, and I would like to ask what's happening with the surveys that many people filled out. I would hope that eventually the results would be tabulated and given back out to the public so we could see what the results are, and if you can give us a status update on who's working on it and
I know that's a
where
comp
that
plan
is.
thing. Doug, do you have an idea right now?
We're still collecting them.
Yeah, we're still in the process of getting them back, right?
Yeah.
So when's the deadline? I thought that was gone.
I honestly don't remember.
Who's spearheading this? Who's collecting them and then going to be looking at the data?
You mean logistically? They're coming to the town office, aren't they, James?
The Eastern Maine Development Corporation mailed to each household and did collect back, and I do think they had a deadline of the end of the year. But all they're doing is collecting the data for us and going to present it to the comp plan committee where it will be discussed.
I'm not sure when the next meeting is yet. Anyone have an idea? I know George is the chair of that, so I think we're just waiting to try to get as many back before.
There's no meeting in January. We'll probably have one in February.
So do you think the results
I'm not
will
the
be...
chair, George is, but I think
Okay.
we'll have one in February. It has to, those surveys, I've seen some of them, but they have to be, they gotta go to the committee first, and then we'll decide what to do with them. And people that have names on them, some people want to be anonymous. I don't know if individually they'll be, I think they'll probably be just,
Results?
yeah,
well,
the results.
results aggregated on a
Right,
spreadsheet or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question about that, actually. I didn't think of it until Janet mentioned it. That is, the questions were not yes/no questions or choose one of the above questions. Some of them you responded with a sentence. It's very hard to tabulate the results of those because they're not, you know, if there are yeses and nos, you can say there were 37 yeses and 42 nos. But if there are people who are responding with, well, I think we should do this and we shouldn't do that, that's very hard to tabulate. Do you know how that will be done?
Yeah, but
Well,
when I've been involved with things like that, you just literally type in what somebody has said and it's there for the viewing. You can't
good.
analyze it, but it's all the individual comments
I would
should
hope that's the way
be
it would be
on
done.
there separately.
Yeah.
The committee has, the committee approved the mailing, the questions. We haven't dealt with the results yet, or the format, but it will be done probably at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Any other open to the public at this point? Oh, okay. Old business, 7A TIF policy change, second reading. Can you just give us a refresher on that?
quickest discussion of that is that the state, DECD, was looking for us to change our policy because we have the state as doing approval of credit enhancement agreements, which they do not do anymore. So we were out of alignment with what the state policy is, and they want us to change it.
Okay.
Is the recommended wording for the change?
It's just a strikeout, as I passed out in the last meeting.
Okay.
We're striking out that the state DECD approves CEAs.
I'm rather hard to finding it, but we've found it. All right, any questions? Any questions for James or anybody else? Right at the very bottom of the first page. New TIF districts development, and then striking out programs and associated CEOs. So, not a substantive change. All right, is there a motion to approve the new policy?
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor of that? 5-0. All right, resolution to support Maine schools for marine science technology, transportation engineering. James, you put something together for us?
Yeah, I took a stab at it for you. If you want, I'll read it.
Please.
Resolution of the Board of Selectmen, Town of Searsport, whereas the public education of our children is a significant responsibility for the inhabitants of the town of Searsport, and whereas educational opportunities in today's society need to be forward-thinking and diverse, and whereas the residents of the town of Searsport have always supported education and, in fact, have a long history of supporting marine-related education to provide for the robust shipping history of the town, and whereas the current capacity of our town and district-built schools are approximately half, and we have capacity to adequately house the magnet school proposed for the years to come, and whereas the town of Searsport and Stockton Springs have several unique assets, including Fort Point Lighthouse, Stockton Harbor, Sears Island, Penobscot Marine Museum, the Port of Searsport, Hamilton Learning Center, and indeed Penobscot Bay, we sit with a wealth of opportunity. And whereas the marine, science, technology, transportation, and engineering fields provide very stable, good-paying employment opportunities that are fields in high demand. And whereas the 127th Legislature passed LD 277 into law, which establishes the framework for the school to move forward, and now therefore be it resolved, the Town of Searsport Selectmen supports the magnet school, the main school for marine science, technology, transportation, and engineering, and the Town of Searsport Selectmen calls on the Governor of the State of Maine and the Maine State Legislature to continue their efforts to make the Maine School for Marine Science, Technology, Transportation, and Engineering a reality for the children of Maine and the towns of Searsport and Stockton Springs.
All right, question, you said LD 1277, in writing you said 277.
1277, I'm sorry.
It's right on.
1277.
It's right, it's written correctly, okay, just want to make sure.
It's ingrained in my head.
Yeah.
1277.
Okay. All right,
I move that we approve this resolution.
is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions on it? It's very well written.
I do have one. Is Stockton sending one?
I haven't approached them, but I'll share,
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah, all those in favor? 5-0.
Okay.
James, yeah, thank you.
Seamless.
Yeah, that's the real one.
All right.
Let's go on to 7C, Marine Time Day event. John, I'll show you the table.
The museum, I guess.
Sign
Let me just-
Yeah. Take your time.
I thought they meant the schools. Okay, yeah, I brought this up our last meeting. And since then, I've had a chance to talk to James a little bit. He would like to see us also do a port summit, which is something that was recommended to us by one of my townspeople here some time ago. So I thought now is possibly combine the two of them. One looking at the heritage, one looking at the future. One of my thoughts is, I don't recall ever doing a project with the Penobscot Marine Museum. So this might be a good opportunity to do that. See if they'd be willing to do heritage aspect of it. That way, something else can concentrate on the future aspect. It also might be a good way to get local businesses involved if they want to do some kind of promotion that weekend. But, you know, I think doing it this way would appeal to a wider variety of people. So, that's my,
Okay.
all right.
Do you have a proposal on how we go about setting that up, or you got some, a committee you want to head up, or how do you want to do that?
Well, James is already working, I believe, on something.
Yeah, I've already done some legwork towards the idea of a port summit. It would really take probably a vote of the board to authorize moving forward and show its support, and then we'll start reaching out to the folks at the Penobscot Marine Museum to see how we can line it up. And I would not want this early to identify a day or a weekend, but that would be our next step.
Okay.
And I'd be more willing to work with James and other interested parties, you know, to type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I do have a question. When this was first discussed, if I remember, the Port Summit was going to be sort of a promotion of the town. There would be information shared and that kind of thing. There would be people coming and making presentations. Has any more thought been given to what that would involve? Who would be involved in that?
That's where we're at. And yes, it would be to get folks from within the port. I have had some brief conversations with folks at MDOT on the multimodal side, and you know, I think you're right. It would be a series of informational
Dog and pony show, DOT.
demonstrations or the opportunity maybe in booths to set up so that people can come around and get the information that they want. Sprague, Irving, you know, anyone operating within the port, the clay slurry, the railroad. I mean, those are things that they could be useful, and we'll have to see who we can.
The head of the Marine
Get
Association,
the
for
support.
example, would be welcome to participate and
Absolutely,
just
I think
all
some,
get as many voices as possible participating.
yeah, I think that's a good idea.
You know, I've always spoke with one business, very briefly, and a local business, and they're very interested. They can see what could be a plus for them, and I'm sure the others would hopefully feel the same way.
All right. What kind of do you want to?
Maybe DCP can have a jobs fair.
Hey Harlan, if I can hear you, then the people on TV can hear you.
Oh,
Okay?
sorry. I think I'm whispering, but I'm not.
Yeah. Do you want to make some sort of motion and try to move things along?
Okay, I move that we support this and authorize James to work on it.
Okay. James, do you want to?
Second.
Yeah. Thank you. Moved by Jack and second by Dick. Do you want, just to kind of keep a thumb on it, do you want to make a maybe at least to begin with in your selectmen reports, kind of bring the board up to date as to what's happened?
Most definitely.
You know, I'm sure you'll do that even,
Oh, yeah, most
even if I didn't
definitely.
want you to do it. So maybe just kind of way thinking of logistically.
I'll talk
way-
even when you don't want me to.
Right. Just to kind of see how things are going. So okay. So we don't need to do anything, I think, more formal like a committee or anything like that yet, unless you want to.
We'll play that by ear.
Okay.
We'll find out from this meeting. Maybe there'll be some people that want to come forward and help. They probably wouldn't be able to work toward bringing folks from within the port. I'll have to work on that. But any other ideas on how we can promote the town and the heritage, certainly willing and open for. So.
All right. Any further discussion or questions? All right, so if anyone has any questions or is interested in being involved, maybe approach James or Jack. Okay. All those in favor of that? 5-0. Thank you, Jack. Look forward to hearing how that goes. On to new business, 8A Water District Trustee appointment. Looks like Bill Shorey is up for reappointment. This will be one of 2 meetings. Anyone else apply, James, at this point?
No, this is the first meeting where, of course, there's an annual appointment every year at this time, but this is the first meeting where you've actually discussed it openly, and Bill has identified by letter his interest in continuing.
Okay, so at the end of this, we'll have just move the table, but any questions at this point from the board? And if anybody else is interested in the position, they can just come to the town office and apply for that.
A letter of interest would be
A letter of interest.
in order.
Do we advertise this, James?
I don't believe we do.
It's not an employee position,
It's an appointed position.
so we do it, we have 2 meetings, give people heads up about it.
Usually we have on the town website, it shows what, there's a page that sometimes shows what committees have openings on them. Would it be posted there?
It probably wouldn't, because it's a trustee.
Oh, okay, that's right.
It's outside of the
Like
town.
the
We
library.
appoint it, but it belongs to them.
So if anyone out there is
I don't know
interested,
if
then
Herb does or doesn't, but I would imagine they have a whole policy for how they advertise
Yep.
if you go to the thing.
a letter of interest would be appropriate, and we will be voting finally on February 2nd. Any questions from the board at this point? I'll make a motion to table to our next meeting.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of that? 8B, James, alarm policy.
Yeah, this has been talked about a few times and was requested to go onto the agenda. They have, police and fire have been dealing with a lot of false alarms, which has a definite impact on the budget. The fire alarm goes off, and I would never want to discourage people from responding, but I would want to encourage good alarm etiquette, if you will. People should be up to date on their alarms and not let them just blast off because they have a bad sensor, batteries have died, or whatever. 20 years ago, this was an issue, and it was an issue with 2 different locations in town. And we actually did set out, and I had, at the direction of the board and the town manager at the time, had drafted a policy to deal with it. And there was the threat out there in public, even though we weren't on TV. It was certainly the talk of the town that we were going to have an alarm policy and charge for false alarms after a certain number of them. I think it was 3 in a 6 or 12-month period. Just the threat of that, the 2 alarm problems that we were running into, cleaned up their act. They had alarm companies in and fixed the problems. And
Is
believe
that home
me,
security alarms or fire detectors? Or?
these are both fire and burglary alarms. We were getting called out a couple times a week to
Especially at night.
burglar alarms in the middle of the night. And I can tell you, I was one of the ones being called out in the middle of the night. It was not pleasant, and it was expensive to the town. It was paid for by overtime. So we've kind of landed back in that situation, and I know that some of the department heads have talked about it, and I would perhaps make a recommendation that you have the fire chief and police chief come up with a model to bring back to you. I don't have one in my head anymore, and the one that was written 20 years ago is probably long gone, and certainly not up to today's standard. There are some models out there, so.
James, where are the calls going to dispatch or?
Yeah, the alarm company gets the call, and they immediately are supposed to call caretaker and dispatch. And dispatch, sends us out. Now, if a caretaker should call in and report out, well, it's me, I'm cleaning the floors, or something like that, they cancel it. We don't get paged to that. But what's happening or what's not happening is that phone call. We occasionally have it here. I get a call immediately if this alarm goes off, and it doesn't happen often. We're not part of the problem, But if I immediately call dispatch and say, I know who that, that's us, or, sometimes a cleaning person's in here early, or I know someone's coming in at 7 when we open at 8, or, it's usually pretty well known, and we cancel. I think the police have responded to this location twice in 3 years. And I've been on the phone with them saying, okay, just figure out what it is and reset the alarm.
So would the chief like to tell us how bad the problem is?
Well,
I mean, is it 3 times, 4 times ongoing?
this could be, if you want them to report out, I think it would be wise, because I don't actually know the extent. I do know that the fire department's been out on a few calls that have been, erroneous and not canceled. And again, it gets pretty expensive because you
Right.
get 20, 25 people responding, and we want them to. We don't want to say don't respond. Some towns and departments have gone the opposite way. They send someone to the scene and then decide whether they're going to call out the service. And if you're dealing with a fire, that's the wrong way to do it. And but to curb the cost, they've gone that route, and I think that's just. I think it's the wrong way to do it, but I'd love to reach out and get you a report from them as to their thoughts on it.
Well, if they're legitimately bogus and it's the same people all the time, has the chief thought about writing them a letter, or are you writing them a letter, or
I think they
telling
have.
them to get their act together? Because
I believe they have, but I don't know what.
That might be part of the policy
I don't know
too.
I don't know if that's solved anything at this point.
Well, it sounds like I'd be interested. I mean, I think we'd all be interested in seeing it. I don't know if this needs board action to tell them to do it. I mean, they've brought policies to us unsolicited before, so does anyone feel the need to vote on it, or just bring it to us and we'll see?
We live in the electronic age.
Yeah.
The chief reports that they have responded to 4 alarms, false alarms, at one location in the past 2 weeks. Sometimes the responsible person, the RP as we call them, refuses to come out. So you go to alarm, the alarm's going off, the alarm company has the ability to reset, or at least turn it off, not reset it, and the responsible party doesn't come out to reset the alarm. So we've made the trip for the person who is responsible doesn't, and they respond every single time. So that's direct from the chief.
well, that's not acceptable.
So does anyone not want to see what this policy says? I guess that's where we were at.
Do we actually have a policy that needs to be updated, or there is
No,
no
we don't have
policy?
No, we never formalized it. It was written. It actually did come back to the board, but again, the folks that had the alarms that were problematic saw the problem, dealt with it.
I had this discussion with Andy last week or the week before on pumping solids and that stuff. We have people from where I sit, it appears, rather than try to fix the problem, they pick up the phone and say, come pump me. And we go over there at cost to the taxpayers of the town and take care of that.
That's the next item.
It's on there?
Yeah, that's the next item on the agenda.
All right, so anyone's on board with the chief's bringing us a false alarm policy? We'll take a look at it. Yeah. Okay. Maybe that brings us to the next item.
One more.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'd be interested to know if the dispatcher, the alarm company is calling the owners first, because I've had that system. It's the owner, it's the company's, should be the company policy to contact that owner before they call anybody else.
I think I get a
It
call
was a
before
fire.
anyone gets called.
You get the call.
Yeah, I mean, for this building, for our
Oh,
alarms,
right.
here in the library, I get the call first, and then, make a determination.
Because all companies are not great
Correct.
companies.
And that could be driven by policy too.
Seems like they would want to dispatch the emergency services before they started calling Tom, Dick, and Harry.
All right, so we'll hear from the chiefs on that one. Now, what about non-emergency response policy? What's that about?
First, I want to say the chief thanks you for addressing this. And 99% of the alarm companies call the responsible party first.
Yeah.
That's his direct
That's
input.
pretty standard.
Yeah, non-emergency is just as Dick Dick talked about, we do some full service type stuff where, you know, if your basement is flooded due to a, you know, a major storm or whatever, we have and do come out and help you with that. We do have pumps. We don't put fire trucks necessarily in danger, but we have portable pumps we throw in your basement and keep the water as best we can. But then we run into the course of people don't fix the problem in between. So if you go to a house one week and we've had a pretty good storm and you pump it out, and then, you know, a couple weeks later there's another storm and they want you to come back. They haven't purchased a pump of their own to deal with the issue, and we're calling that a non-emergency response policy. And I think it's still a good. There's still no problem with helping our neighbors, but I think what Dick was getting at was there does have to be a cap to it somehow, or a bill generated if it happens. We've had a couple that have been reoccurring.
Well, it's my understanding some towns don't even do that kind of.
Absolutely. Belfast refuses.
Now, did we pump some basements in Belfast?
We did one recently for a person, 88-year-old lady who was panicking. Dispatch didn't know what to do. Andy took a crew over and helped her because it was really a kind of a dire situation. They were actually, we were doing dispatch a favor, not the person from Belfast. They were really concerned
Belfast
about
Fire
her
wouldn't come out.
condition. They wouldn't come out.
Right, so maybe this policy can kind of address those kind of issues too.
I don't wanna sound like we're waiting to jump on someone because they don't fix something right away. I mean, my discussions with Andy and touching briefly with you, James, it was about something like 3 calls in a year, not a calendar year, but a year. And that, I think, is more than reasonable. That they.
Well, let's see what the policy says. I mean,
Let them invest
curious.
in a pump to take care of themselves, because we're only providing a pump, so if they had their own pump, we wouldn't pay over probably $100 to go up there with our equipment, pay our employees, take it out of the fire department budget to pump a cellar. If they would invest in their own pump, they can take care of themselves.
Well, I'd like to see what the policy says. Jack?
James, correct me if I'm wrong. I also heard though that there's a couple of residents here in town where we might be at fault in flooding them out.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very hard when you have an event that drops 10 inches of rain in a short period of time to determine where the fault lies. And again, that's kind of that gray area why we don't mind helping, because in 2 of those cases in recent times, yeah, the subsurface drain system that we have in place was faulty. So I mean, it wasn't without. And again, I'd like to see what they could come up with for a policy, because there are times when we're going to do it because it's on us, or partially on us. But in the meantime, usually when we leave a scene, and I've been in many of them. I've been in a lot of basements full of water with my arm up to my elbow in a floor drain trying to figure out if there's a plug. Usually we leave with a recommendation. You should get a pump. And you know, we even had it at the Historical Society, and they got a pump, and it still didn't solve the problem. But that problem wasn't even created by that. It was a plugged cellar drain way out at the street side, and that was just, you know, well, we were more than happy to help them, but they did help themselves in the meantime. They did buy a pump, and they pumped it out, and, you know, it would have continued to move in that direction. We went out and we found the problem for them, so. We don't mind helping, it's just, it'd be interesting to see what you could come up
It's
with.
worth discussing. All right, anyone object to them presenting the policy along those lines?
Not at all.
Budget votes, I believe, at this point. I'm gonna take a look at this. This is not every line item yet. I believe the BAC's still working.
Correct, and they've gotten through half of a little over half of the budget. In the past couple of years, we've done this where we've voted out what they've worked on. For time's sake, town meeting is March 5th. You have two official, three official meetings between now and then. The problem is you have 2 meetings scheduled in which you can deal with this. And if we have a storm, God forbid, next February 2nd, we're going to have some special meetings. As much of the work as we can knock out as we go along, it puts us in a better place. And this Thursday is the out-of-house accounts. So,
Yeah, what time is that?
I believe they're scheduled for 7.
7, okay. So the board can attend.
In the
that.
safety building?
Yes. No, upstairs. Upstairs.
Got 3 meetings going on.
That's not a formal meeting for the selectmen, or is it? Is it a workshop for a second?
It's a workshop for you.
It is, okay. Did we want, I remember you and I addressed an issue with you before as far as workshop. Do we want to meet a little earlier and have a quick workshop on the warrant? Or do you want to do that after, or what do you think? Because we haven't discussed the warrant.
That night? Or,
Yeah, since it's a workshop. That makes sense. 'Cause do we have a
Look-
workshop scheduled, or should we do that at the next meeting?
I love meetings. Let's do it.
We still need to discuss the warrant. Right.
Yeah, 6:30 would be,
I think we have 3 meetings that night, Thursday night. Upstairs, public safety building, and meeting down here. So I'm just telling you that.
Okay,
I think
so-
the one down here is at 6:30, and we're on at 7 upstairs.
Can you look into that, James, maybe we can.
The workshop wouldn't be televised though.
No, but we're,
Okay, Thursday out of house?
Thursday at 7 around the house.
Okay, we have to be there fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
we could probably fit in over at the assessor's office if we need a quick meeting, a workshop.
What do you think, James? Because we do need to discuss the warrant. Or
Yeah.
is there another opportunity to do that?
we're
It's tight here.
we're getting close. You could schedule a workshop for next week if you wanted to just have a standalone to work the warrant. The BAC is meeting on the 28th to finish the warrant. Or you could meet in the I don't envision that we're going to be able to vote on the warrant until the 16th, which
Okay,
is
so let's put a workshop on the agenda for the 2nd then.
that's your regular meeting.
Yeah. And then we'll
Do it
pick
early.
a date and before the 16th to get that squared away. That way we at least have the budget numbers from the BAC. It'll be a pretty complete pretty complete warrant. All right, does that make sense? All right, that's 2 budget votes. So
The workshop then is on the,
we don't have a date yet. We'll just
Oh, okay.
discuss that.
Alright.
Squeeze one in real quickly for the 16th. All right, the numbers we have so far, there looks like there's 2 changes, James, one in administration
Yeah.
and one in EMA, and the explanations are on the bottom. Does the board have any questions about those? And any reason why we wouldn't go with the BAC numbers? It looks like the administration was a calculation error.
Yeah, we pulled Harriet's time out of administration, moved it into assessing, and then didn't backfill for the part-time person that would fill her shoes while she was doing the job of assessing.
Looks like with EMA, we learned that FEMA will not be funding the message boards that were proposed, and so they were taken out of the budget. Correct. That explains why that one's lower. Any questions about that or any other number? Because what I'm going to do is just make one motion, go right through the numbers, and use the 2 BAC numbers of the difference. Unless someone has a question or objection to that.
Fine.
Upstairs is finished, all of these, it's
Yes.
on the sheet, okay.
Right. That's what we've done so far. All right, so I'll make a motion. We'll start with. So I'm moving that we recommend $6,708 for the selectmen budget, $79,562 for the manager, budget $194,930 for administration, $58,440 to assessor, $10,000 to the tax anticipation note debt, $30,000 for contingency, $109,000 for insurance and legal, $14,060 for town office, $269,725 for police, $5,700 for animal control, $2,850 to the shellfish budget, $199,047 to ambulance, $84,072 to the fire department, $22,340 to the public safety building line, $12,259 to the EMA budget, $24,000 even to the streetlights, $213,081 hydrants, and $428,508 the highway budget. Is there a second one?
Second.
Question about any of those numbers? Alright, all those in favor? 5-0. Okay. Spirit of American Volunteer Award, James, you want some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I met with Bruce from the state organization, and he is looking for the town, all towns, to identify recipients early, so that awardings of the Spirit of America Award could be done at the annual town meetings. Last year I did recommend George Kerper, and I again submit his name to the board. His efforts on the several committees that he works on is exceptional, and the extra work donated to the town in the area of video recording and production is incredible. All a committee or all a board or all an individual in town of Searsport needs to do is say, I have an event I want filmed. And he's packing up the gear and doing a remote recording of it. If they're doing it here, it's a live, but most of the time it's a recording. He receives a stipend for his work out back, but there's no way it covers the incredible effort that it takes to make our Channel 7 and Channel, I think, 5 work. And I certainly appreciate the effort, and I don't know, you know, we've had some great recipients, and I don't want to say anything, but he does an exceptional job, and I'm very, very pleased to have him working with us.
Okay, name submitted. Is there anybody else that has another name in mind, or want to make a nomination for the board? Anyone want to make a nomination?
I'll nominate George Pepper.
Second on that? Second by Doug. Discussion? All those in favor of that? That's it. Very good. Thank you, James. 11th hour on to correspondence.
One item only, and that's the another proposed routine program change to the Maine Coastal program, and we've seen several of these, and I think they're minor changes, but the information about the changes can be found at the state's website, and the information about that's here.
Treasurer's report. Move that, we approve that, pending our signatures. Your second?
Second.
Doug? All those in favor of that? Is that, in favor of that, Jack, or you opposed to the warrant? Favor of the warrant? Okay.
Okay.
Stick you down as opposed. Department heads reports, looking like we got them all. Is there a
Yes.
motion regarding those?
So moved. Accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion or questions on those? All those in favor? 5-0. And selections reports. Dick, want to start us off?
I'm still thinking, can we start at the other end of the table?
No, that's why I started with you. Sorry, Doug, go ahead.
I don't have anything.
I don't have anything either. Meredith?
No?
Jack?
Well, yeah. I've heard several comments around town from a few people that they felt we had a part-time town manager at full-time wages. And I don't think that could be further from the truth. And I told them James is putting in 40 hours plus for us, regardless who's in Augusta or here. And the work is getting done. And I believe that having him in Augusta for us has been a big benefit to this town. Definitely would not have the school coming to us. And also, as you recall, last summer, we authorized hiring a part-time economic development director. 2 RFPs were sent out. No one wanted to respond. So James has more or less taken it upon himself to be economic development director. And this is at no extra cost to the town. The money that we had for that is still there, hasn't been spent. It can be used for other economic activities. And I just felt that tonight, it'd be fair to our town manager that this should be made known. That's what I have.
Dick, Debbie, thought about?
Yeah, yeah, I have some
I'm
thoughts.
sorry, I'll go right back.
I know James has put over a year's work and probably got another year's work to put into this magnet school. But I look at this as economic development. We're gonna have people coming into this town, they're gonna need lodging, they're gonna be spending money. I think it's great. They're gonna get a good education in exchange, but they are going to put some youth into this town. I have feelings about, and it just bothers me that some people go into the legislature and they don't have a clue what they're getting into. They do not know what's happening, what the impact is of their decisions in this. And I really feel there's only a couple of guys out there that have been town managers and are sitting up there in the legislature. And we need more to recognize the impact of the decisions that they make out there, whether they're taking something away from us or trying to twist something around and have it come in the back door on us. I think Jim has definitely got a positive voice up there. Anything that has to do with the port, even once again back to that school, he has made the connections out there. He wouldn't have been doing this if he wasn't in the legislature. He's not wasting the time of residents of Searsport or their taxpayers' dollars. We're getting 40 hours a week plus out of him. Sometimes he's down here before the place opens in the morning. You'll see him down here on the weekends. I have never had a problem getting a hold of him or getting an answer to a question when he's out in the legislature. If you've ever attended the committee meetings out there, you'll see they got their little things there and they're going, while people are talking, they're going away, they're in contact with whatever business they're running or whatever thing in there. But I think we got demand for the job. I think it's a bargain because your town managers of a town this size get paid more than we're paying our town manager. Amen.
Thank you, Dick. Doug. Please.
I don't know how many hours he puts in, I'm not really interested, but financially, I was involved, it's been 12 years now in the downtown renovation committee, and without James that never would have happened. It was postponed for 8 years in a row. And James managed to get it finally through the budget. This is it keeps climbing. What is it now, James? 5.5?
No, it's $5.2 million.
5.2. The Steamboat Wharf money on 2 grants saved us about $500,000, $400,000 to $500,000. Is that correct?
Yeah, the bids came in below where they were anticipated. We were reimbursed $230,000.
Okay. So financially, I think he's earned his paycheck, and all those things are good for Searsport. And I haven't even mentioned the school, which it's endless what that school, if it comes to, will do economically for this town. It's just amazing, and thank you, James.
Doug.
Could I
go ahead.
comment on this too?
Sure.
I certainly agree with Jack and with Dick and with Doug that we're very lucky to have James as a town manager. He is unbelievably up to date. He knows what's going on. If you go into his office and ask him a question about something, he reaches into a file without even turning around and hears the information. He knows the history. He's been involved in a lot of things. But I think it's a little bit, I'm not quite sure what the word I'm looking for, a bit quick, a bit hasty to dismiss concerns brought to us by citizens without looking into them. James has always been very responsive to me, and he is to all of us. There are people in town who say that has not been their experience. It has always been my experience, but the thing is, instead of jumping all over people who have who have something to say, or who think that they may see a problem, I think it would be much better to listen to those people and see what it is they're talking about.
Okay, let me tell you, I wasn't being dismissive. I was stating what I felt.
So was I.
Okay, but I wasn't being dismissive, and I didn't put these people off. I never have, and I never will.
I wasn't being dismissive either, Jack. I agree with you about James, but I do think that when people come forward with a concern, we have an obligation to listen to them.
I listened to them.
Oh, I can see, and I can see you made up your mind too.
All right, we're gonna move on. Open to public, viewing public, any calls, James?
No problem.
Okay. Open to public, second round. Thoughts?
Janet Williams, Searsport. Could I just ask a quick question of James? The school is a fabulous idea, and my understanding is that it's been approved in principle, but now it has to be funded. Is that correct? And
It's kind of convoluted how we've got to go to the next step. It's a law. It exists. The appointments to the committee to build the curriculum are being made. We're identifying people. That curriculum and the final plan does have to go back to Augusta for kind of a final blessing, which will include a fiscal note, which will have to be built into the next budget. The one thing that's happened between the time of it being presented and now is the federal education bill has been passed. And part of that bill, it reorganized the way the federal government's doling out its money. Some programs went away and others in the authorization have come to be. And one of the things that came to be, and this actually came to me from a legislative aide out there who attended a conference in Washington this year. One of the things they're funding very heavily within the federal authorization is magnet schools. So it seems like a big puzzle, but all the pieces are seeming to fit together at the right time in the right place. So if we're successful in building a good program and putting forth a curriculum that's accepted to the Committee of Jurisdiction and the Appropriations Committee, there looks like there's federal funding that could be coming our way. And if we don't, if they simply ignore the school and just say, you know, it was a good effort, too bad, we're leaving funds on the table that the state of Maine could use to help reach our 55% of education and to educate kids in an area that we've not paid attention to. So we're really in a good spot, but we're not done. You lead into a great question. I was hoping to pass this legislation and be able to walk away from it and say, there, job done. Somebody else who knows a little bit more about education, but I've been on this real adventure learning about all the nuances of federal funding, state funding, meeting with the commissioner and everything, but it does look, it's very promising, and it definitely, it's really now it depends on what we can put forth for a plan, but it looks very, very good for us right now.
And is there a danger that after all the committees have got everything put together and the funding is there, that LePage will turn around and veto it?
Well,
I mean, that's what he does.
I don't want to say anything. I've been very good. And, the only opposition that existed actually was out of the chief executive's office. He didn't sign it, nor did he officially veto it, but it became law. And I think since that time there's been a change. His office actually reached out to me for ideas on who to identify to put on the committee, and they forwarded a bunch of information to me, and I've shared some of that with our local RSU. So I think times have changed. Certainly the funding source has changed, and it's a 5-year appropriation. So this is a guarantee of funding into magnet schools in the country to the tune of I believe it's $92 million, and increasing over the next 5 years. So
Wonderful.
it's there. It's a matter of us reaching out and getting it. And I think, like I say, we were the first one. We passed a piece of legislation that makes it happen. So as long as we can do the next step, I think we're in a good spot.
Well, let's hope for the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other open to the public at this point? Okay, so we're gonna have executive session at this point. So at 7:50, we move that we exit regular session to executive session. Going to 1 MRSA 456F, Director's Staff to discuss general assistance, and 1 MRSA 456A to discuss personnel matters, and 1 MRSA 456E, confidential records matters to discuss labor negotiations.
I'm talking in the morning, I rode over with
Oh, okay.
Or a second.
Second.
All in favor of executive session at this time?
Yep.
So at 8 o'clock exactly, and that we exit executive session back into regular session.
Second.
5-0.
Yes.
All those in favor? Anyone want to stay in executive session for the rest of the night? Okay, me neither. 5-0. Decision from executive session, the only thing we need to take up is the town manager contract.
I
Is there a
move it.
motion to approve or disapprove that?
I move we approve the contract as presented
Second.
and amended by the chair.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All those in favor? 5-0. Also need to execute that, and that's what we have.
This
Is there any other
Let me
issues?
see it.
That's the official.
This is the one that,
Is there a motion to adjourn
Aaron
at this
just
point?
amended.
Oh, yeah, well, you change that.
Yeah.
All those in
Yeah.
favor of adjournment?
Yeah.
All right, folks, I'll see you this Thursday at 7.